Hold on to your hats because I'm about to say something pretty controversial. The FIRE movement, this whole financial independence, retire early obsession, is a scarcity cult. It is a slow motion financial suicide pact disguised as wisdom. You've got these people all over the internet bragging about how they're living on 20 grand a year, eating beans and rice, driving a 20-year-old Toyota, and living in a shoebox just so that they can hit some magic number in their Vanguard account by the age of 40. Listen, that is not a path to abundance. That is a path to a very well-funded funeral. You're trading your most vibrant, high-energy years for a future where you're finally free to be cheap for the rest of your life. Listen, the dreams are big, but the margins are thin. Welcome to the Home Business Hustle. I'm your host, Isai Rodriguez, and in my world, we don't do maybe, we do math, right? We don't follow trends, we build systems. No fluff, no filters, just cold, hard truth. All right? So let's dive right in. Yeah, I'm dead serious. This whole this FIRE philosophy is built on this foundation of fear, right? It's for people who essentially hate their lives so much that they're willing to starve their present life just to escape a future that they're terrified of, right? I had a client, let's call her Sarah, right? She was a total FIRE devotee, like she was all into the lifestyle, right? Funny thing is that she was an engineer making six figures, but she lived like she was below the poverty line, right? She didn't travel, she didn't go out with friends, she bought the generic version of everything. She never admitted it out loud, but you can tell, right? She was absolutely miserable. And she had this spreadsheet, right? And the spreadsheet told her that in 15 years, she'd be free. But then life happened. Are you with me? So inflation spiked. Her safe 4% withdrawal rate, like that suddenly started looking like a joke because the cost of living doubled while her portfolio stayed flat, right? She realized that even if she hit her number, she was one medical emergency away or one bad market year away from being back to zero. She spent 15 years in a self-imposed prison only to realize that the freedom that she bought was made of glass, right? And so I've got to say, if you're in the FIRE world as well, then the seven-figure mistake that you're making is that you're playing 100% defensive, like a 100% defensive game. You're trying to accumulate your way to wealth when the math proves that the accumulation is the slowest, riskiest path to true independence. And in fact, I don't think there has been anyone in history that's saved up to become wealthy, right? Look, in this episode, we're going to go and prove why the FIRE cult is, why they're lying to you, right? And why you need a leveraged offense, not a defensive shoestring budget. Are you with me? All right, let's run the audit on the FIRE movement, right? Let's break this down. Let's talk about this. Let's look at the math that the bean counters on Reddit, like all these forums, let's talk about like what it is that they don't want, like what they don't want to talk about. So the FIRE movement asks you to trade 15 to 20 years of your prime, your health, your energy, your social life for the hope of a modest retirement. They tell you how compounding interest is a miracle, right? How that's going to set you free. But I'm going to tell you that it's a tortoise in the world of hares. Are you with me? The math that you never see is the opportunity cost of your youth, right? You can't buy back your 30s, that whole block, that whole decade of your 30 when you're 60. You follow me? Like when you're 60 years old, you can't put down a down payment on your 30s and say like, I want my 30s back, right? If you're living on 30% of your income just to be free later, right? Then you're missing the point of being alive now, right? Now, listen, don't hear what I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying that there's no place for savings and that there's no time where you may want to consider, where it is that you spend your money, right? What I'm saying is that a real business model, a residual royalty model, allows you to live an abundant life while you build your asset, right? Now, let's talk about the safe withdrawal rate, right? This is a good one. Like the FIRE cult lives and dies by this 4% rule, right? I'm sure you're aware of that, right? They think of that if they have $1 million, right? They have this million, like this is, why is it always $1 million? That's always like the magic number. But they think that if you have $1 million, that you can take out 40 grand a year forever and essentially live off of that. But that math right there is fundamentally broken because it assumes a linear world, right? It doesn't account for like black swan events, as I like to refer to them as. It doesn't account for hyperinflation. It doesn't account for the fact that the government can change the tax code on you and on your 401k whenever it is that they need more money, right? It doesn't take that into account. You essentially have zero control over your financial future, right? You're essentially a passive observer in your own financial life. That to me is, well, if you do the math, that is a 0 out of 4 on the equity scale because you simply don't own the system, right? You're just a passenger on a ship that you're not even steering. You're just there for the ride, right? When I approached my mentor about his thoughts on the, this whole FIRE mentality, he explained to me how wealth is not a fund. Wealth is a flow. Are you with me? The FIRE movement is obsessed with this fund mentality, having this giant pile of cash that you slowly eat away at until you live off of it basically until it is your time to go, right? That's a scarcity mentality, right? True abundance is flow. It's a systematic leveraged income stream that produces more cash than you can spend. That's what we're talking about, right? Something that outspends your living expenses regardless of the market. If you have, $1 million in the bank, you're worried about the market every single morning, right? If you have a systemized distribution network that produces 20, 30, 40 grand or more per month in residual royalty, well, at that point, you don't care about the market, right? You don't care if the market goes up, if it goes down, if it's sideways. It doesn't matter because wherever the market is, your asset is far outpacing the inflation. It's outpacing the market up, fluctuations. It just doesn't matter, right? And because you own the flow, you have complete and total control of how much or how little your asset produces. Are you with me? One approach is like, if you think about it, one approach is like a defensive crouch and the other is an offensive powerhouse, right? But like not only that, but frugality, that doesn't scale, right? You can only cut your own expenses so far before it is that you're living under a bridge, right? There's a metaphorical floor, if you will, to how much you can save, but there is no ceiling, there is no cover, there's no limit to how much you can earn through leverage, right? The FIRE cult, like they spend all their energy lowering the floor, right? Where can I spend? Where can I spend less? How can I save more, right? Let me tell you, the home business hustle is all about raising the ceiling, setting yourself free, literally removing the lid off the pot, which is your potential income, right? Which one sounds like a better use of your brain power? Huh? Think about that. Which one sounds like a better use of your time, right? So I don't know about you, but I know where I stand, you know? So you can keep clipping coupons if you like. It's all good. You can keep staying home while your friends are out living their lives because it's not in your budget, right? You can keep hoping that the S&P 500 does exactly what it is that you want for the next 30 years, right? You can keep hoping, you can keep doing this. That's not a problem. But that's a hell of a gamble, isn't it? Like, that's a hell of a roller coaster ride, if you ask me. Right? The alternative is to stop playing defense and start building a leveraged offense using a model that doesn't require you to live like a monk to become wealthy, to become a millionaire, to become free, right? I'm talking about a solution that scores a perfect 4 out of 4 on the hustle audit, a model that uses systemic leverage, not deprivation, to create a residual royalty that grows whether you're working or not, right? Something that outpaces the market, something that outpaces your cost of living. You with me? So like it's a 60-year-old structure that doesn't care about inflation because it's built on the one thing that always scales: human consumption and distribution, period. Right? We're talking no inventory, no cold calling, and definitely no beans and rice requirement. That's for sure. I've put together the 7-figure mistake audit checklist specifically for the people who are tired of the fire call and ready for the abundance reality. All right. It'll show you exactly why your savings plan is a trap and what the high leverage alternative looks like. Follow the link in the description right now and stop trying to shrink your way to wealth. All right. Start building something that actually flows in your favor. And I'll see you right over there. All right, then. The audit is now closed, but your move is just beginning. Okay. You've got the math. Now go get the money. I'm your host, Isai, and this is the Home Business Hustle. And remember, if it doesn't scale, it's just another jail. So stop trading your time for a dime and start building your residual royalty today. I'll catch you on the other side, my friends. Take care. I'm out.